Hello and welcome to this lesson. So in this lesson, we're going to look at how you can place your stop loss using the order block trading strategy. So basically the rule is simple. You either place your stop loss at the high or low of the order block depending on whether you're bullish or bearish. And then another area you can place your stop loss is the midpoint of the order block, just above or below that midpoint. So not the exact midpoint. So I'll just demonstrate what I mean by this. So basically, we had that order block that we're looking at as our example. So we already looked at the opening as our entry point and also the low of the order block as our entry point. This is a bearish order block. So basically, within this bearish order block, when it comes to stop loss placement, you have said you can either place it at the high or low of the order block or the midpoint of the order block. So the high or low of the order block is the most conservative place you can place your stop loss. So I'll start with that one. So basically, if this is the low of the order block you have entered using that low, what I mean by the high is that high of that candle right there. So basically, if we can find the high of that candle, that high is 0.66953. 66953. So that is the high of the order block. And then this is the high of OB. So this is the most conservative place you can place your stop loss, and make sure that you're adding at least 2 to 3 pips for spread. So when you've found that high, just make sure you're adding at least 2 to 3 pips for spread. The second place, which is a more aggressive area that you can place your stop loss, is the midpoint of that order block. So I've used this rectangle to capture the high and the low of that order block. And then it's giving me a midpoint. So that is the midpoint of the order block. So using that midpoint, that is the midpoint of the order block. So once we have that midpoint, you can see that is our midpoint. So that midpoint of the order block is a more aggressive place you can place a stop loss, but make sure that you're not placing at the exact midpoint. You are adding at least 2 to 3 pips on top of that midpoint. So since we are bearish, you can place it just above the midpoint, maybe somewhere there. You can place it just above the midpoint. So make sure that you're adding 2 to 3 pips above it, so that you can place your stop loss above that midpoint. So this is the midpoint of the order block, midpoint. And this is a more aggressive place you can place a stop loss, so that you can get a better R multiple. But basically, those are the areas that you can place your stop loss. So this is the stop loss. This is a stop loss option 2. Okay, maybe it's just an area where you place your stop loss, but it's more aggressive. So this is a bearish example. Let's look at a bullish example. So we had this bullish example where we saw our entry point as the high of the breaker of the order block, and the opening of the order block as our entry points. So if you are placing your stop loss now using those rules that we've already looked at, then it means you're placing a stop loss below that low and making sure that you're adding at least 2 to 3 or subtracting rather, because we are bullish. If you have that low as the potential stop loss, just make sure that you're putting 2 to 3 pips below the low, so that you do not enter or place your stop loss just as exact low. So this is a stop loss, which is the low of the order block. And again, as we said, this is a conservative area where you can place your stop loss. Make sure that you are subtracting at least 2 to 3 pips below it for your stop loss. So the more aggressive place you can place your stop loss is the midpoint of the order block. So once we have that the entire order block's range, we can determine that midpoint right there. So that is our midpoint. So we have the midpoint of the order block midpoint. This is also an area where you can place a stop loss, but it's a more aggressive area, and you might want to make sure again you subtract at least 2 to 3 pips below. So don't put at the exact midpoint, just put it 2 to 3 pips below it. So those are the areas where you can place your stop loss, and you can manage your stop loss like that. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next lesson.